What is up, everyone, and welcome to the Monday Waiver Wire Show here on Optimus Fantasy Football. If this is your first time here, please make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. This is one of many shows we have going on this week, and it's not even the first one today. If you missed it earlier, Kevin Tompkins on his show Clock Management had Dave Kluge from Football Guys, so make sure you go back and check that out. We'll have the audio version coming out tonight as well. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, Amazon Podcasts, anywhere you can find a podcast. But we're not here to talk about that. We are here to get into the weeds with the Week 3 waiver wire. Evan, how are you doing tonight, buddy? Are you ready for Week 3?
I am most definitely ready for Week 3 after my Bears had a rough first couple of weeks trying to find a brand new identity with brand new coaching. And I'm going to be facing the camera tonight because they're not playing Monday night like last week. So I don't have to just keep turning sideways to watch the freaking game. Because, hey, Houston and Tampa Bay is going pretty well so far. But, I don't really care as much about them. But,
See, this is why I play DFS, especially the primetime games where I might not care as much about the game. I've got money right now. Mika Egbuka is my captain on FanDuel, and boy has a touchdown, and I stacked him with Baker. So haven't had a chance to check on that. Do that after the show. But most importantly, Evan, we need to get into this waiver wire, and we're going to...
Well, we happen to lose. There we go.
Booted me right off there. And we're going to start at quarterback, and not just because it's where we always start, but also because right now on the waiver wire, this could be the most important position a lot of managers will be targeting this week. We've got JJ McCarthy with the ankle issue. We don't know how much time he's going to miss, but he's definitely out for Week 3. Joe Burrow, down with turf toe, is having surgery. He's looking at a 3-month recovery time. We are likely not going to see him again this season. We've got Justin Fields, who went into concussion protocol late yesterday. That's going to be an issue. And we have Jaden Daniels, who is likely going to miss Week 3. And we know how heavily invested some of us on this show are in Jaden Daniels, and it presents a massive problem. So let's get into these quarterbacks here, Evan. The first one I want to talk about, because he played on Sunday and looked a lot better than I think most expected, except for maybe me, Mac Jones in San Francisco, taking over for Brock Purdy. Now, we don't know how long he is going to be at the helm, but for right now, he is the man in San Francisco, and he looked good on Sunday.
But before we actually get into any of these quarterbacks, because I need to talk to the audience real quick about this. Listen. So, 5 quarterbacks went down this week with a variety of injuries. Listen, I get it. You're nervous. You're worried about all the skill players that have the backup quarterbacks throwing to them being worth even less. Before we get into this, I need you to do something with me. Breathe in, breathe out. And now we can get into the waiver wire ads as we calmly help you spend wise FAAB on it so that you don't overspend on people because you're worried about the quarterback situation. So, we were getting 100%. Into Mac Jones, Nate.
Yeah, let's get into Mac Jones.
So, Mac Jones, we don't know when Brock Purdy will be coming back from his ankle issue. It's considered week to week, I guess day to day technically. Mac Jones threw 3 touchdown passes against the New Orleans Saints, which you expect that out of a former first-round draft pick in a functional offensive system that has Christian McCaffrey as your freaking running back. So, yeah, I am not surprised at all that Mac Jones happened to cook. I wasn't necessarily banking on it, but shout out Carly Manger. You called it. You definitely saw Mac Jones was going to cook. So, threw for 279 yards against the Saints defense. He's got the Arizona Cardinals coming up on Week 3, which also does not have that good of a defense. They are very beatable. They have some talent, but it's nothing that the rest of the NFC is going to fear. So, Mac Jones, I don't necessarily expect an exact repeat performance against this, but I'm also not spending too much FAAB on Mac Jones, being that Brock Purdy is not expected to be out for too long. Don't go above 5% for Mac Jones if you happen to need another quarterback. If you're in a 2-quarterback or Superflex league, yeah, you're going to spend a little more than 5%, but I want to cater to the common redraft leagues here, especially because I know a lot of you like to roster 2 quarterbacks for some reason, which drives me nuts. But if you happen to have a guy get hurt, yeah, don't spend above 5% for Mac Jones.
Yep. And guys, if you do have questions in the chat, we are going to get to those when we get to the position in question here. Just so you don't think that we're ignoring you guys, we promise we will get to those as we always do. If you can just be Jason. A little bit patient. We got you, Jason. We saw that come in before the show, so we will get to you, we promise. My thing with Mac Jones is it's very simple. As long as he's starting in San Francisco, since this is the quarterback that Kyle Shanahan wanted anyway, instead of Trey Lance, he finally gets to roll him out. Mac Jones is perfect for this system. He's not that much different than Brock Purdy. He just probably got a little bit better of an early upbringing in the league. People forget Mac Jones was actually pretty good his first season, for fantasy especially. He's got weapons. The next 2 matchups, at least, if he's in for those, we know he's playing against Arizona, but if he gets Jacksonville at home, that's another weak defense that they can beat up on. So I think you at least have 2 weeks out of Mac Jones if you need him, but I'm with you. Don't go crazy on the FAAB. 5% is more than enough. Now, Russell Wilson is on this list. He's 13% rostered in Sleeper right now, Evan. Do you really think that he is worth an ad here with all these injuries? I mean, I suppose you could do worse. There are other guys on this list that might be worse. But Russell Wilson, is he better than week 1? Is he worse than week 2? Is he somewhere in between? What are you expecting out of him, and why would you want to roster him here? Likely in 2 quarterback formats, of course.
Yeah, obviously 2 quarterback formats changes the story, but my focus tonight is 1 quarterback leagues. Russell Wilson is perfectly fine to roster if you need a fill-in quarterback, if you happen to have one of the 5 that is going to be missing some time. Russell Wilson is connecting very nicely with Wan'Dale Robinson, Malik Neighbors, and even Daniel Bellinger to a certain extent, even though they don't have a strong tight end, being that I'm not a big Theo Johnson fan, but the Giants have a couple of tougher matchups coming up against Kansas City, the LA Chargers, and then it's going to get a little easier with the New Orleans Saints in week 5. So the next 2 are not exactly ideal for the New York Football Giants, but if you need a better quality and longer term quarterback than Mac Jones is expected to be, I'm not going to go above 10% in FAAB if you really, really need a quarterback in Russell Wilson. I think maybe the 8 to 10% range is perfectly fine for somebody as an emergency option, but yeah, Russell Wilson is not going to do better this season than the starting quarterback that got hurt on your team.
No, it's absolutely not. And if it wasn't for this string of injuries, I doubt we're probably talking about Russell Wilson this week as someone you'd even consider. Desperate times, desperate measures, blah, 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 such and such. And Russell Wilson's fine. Again, he's got a couple of nice weapons around him. Malik Neighbors, Wan'Dale Robinson, Tyrone Tracy and Cam Scatabo are nice compliments in the run game. They help him out a little bit there. So I think week 1 was more of an aberration for what we're going to see out of Russell Wilson rest of season. Now I think we might actually be waiting longer to see Jackson Dart. That said, I'm not excited about this, but seriously, in some of these leagues, pickings are going to be so slim at quarterback right now, especially with these injuries and having multiple managers who are running to the wire for guys. Russell Wilson, really, for me, not a bad option, not a long-term option. I mean, really, once you get past that week 5 matchup against New Orleans, you've got Philly, Denver, Philly, San Francisco, Chicago, Green Bay, Detroit. You don't want anything to do with Russell Wilson in that slate because he's going to get absolutely destroyed. But that said, if you got to, there are worse options. I think you might think the next guy, Daniel Jones, possibly could be a worse option. I know we've seen 2 electric weeks out of this kid. I worry that it's not sustainable still, even though I wrote him up again today in our waiver wire article, which you can check out, guys, on optimusfantasy.com. A lot more players covered there as well. My concern with this is that I don't think this Indy offense is fully sustainable. Unless Jonathan Taylor can keep doing what he's doing, then I'm willing to go after Daniel Jones. But Evan, is it worth the risk on Daniel Jones right now for what you're going to have to spend on him to get him on the waiver wire?
Well, so if somebody wants to go crazy in FAAB with paying up for Daniel Jones, I'd say let him, because Daniel Jones is not somebody who's a must-have, in my opinion, for your typical 1 quarterback leagues. He's going to have some tougher defensive matchups coming up throughout the season. I don't think Daniel Jones is going to be losing this starting job to Anthony Richardson at this point. Stranger things have happened, but he's got an easy Tennessee defense coming up in week 3, and then the Rams defense in week 4, which is tougher. Week 5 is the Raiders, who don't exactly have a strong secondary, but this Colts offense is going to need to be relying on Jonathan Taylor more than they want to. They do love to run the football, don't get me wrong, but It's like you just said, Nate. I don't think it's all that sustainable rest of season, considering the early season success. I was shocked, to be honest, that the Colts handled the Denver Broncos the way that they did. Maybe I just had the Broncos overrated before the season began. Maybe they're not as good as people say they are. But as far as Daniel Jones' sustainability goes in your one quarterback redraft leagues, I don't want to spend more than about 15% FAAB tops, being that I'm willing to spend up to 15%, being that I know Daniel Jones is probably not going to be losing that starting job this season, so you're going to have him for longer, but he's also not a guy that I would prefer to be starting over a guy that got hurt. Like, we don't know if Joe Burrow is going to be able to come back in time for fantasy season, but if he comes back, I'd rather start a less than 100% Joe Burrow over a healthy Danny Dimes.
I agree with you, unless Danny Dimes keeps this up. I mean, looking at the schedule, yeah, they've got that matchup here against the Rams in week 4. But it's Vegas, Arizona, tough matchup against the Chargers, but then Tennessee, tough against Pittsburgh, Atlanta, Kansas City, Houston, San Francisco, and Jacksonville in the fantasy playoffs. I mean, if you're looking long-term, like you're a Burrow manager and you're worried he's not going to come back, Daniel Jones might be the guy that I kind of veer to, because again, like you said, we know he's not going to lose his starting job. And if Jonathan Taylor can do even remotely what he did against Denver, and I think this is a big reason they won, 25 carries, 165 yards, that put a hurt on the Denver defense. He was getting large chunks. If they can keep running him like that, Daniel Jones will continue to be successful, as will this offense. My question comes into whether or not they can actually be successful long-term with this. I'm medium willing to bet on it, I suppose. That's kind of where I'm at. I'd go up to 25% my FAAB, depending on my quarterback situation. Because again, if I'm staring down Joe Burrow, or maybe you're questioning your rostering of Aaron Rodgers, even though he was decent in week 1, Daniel Jones is a guy I think is worth the risk. I mean, there are worse things. You're not going to roster Russell Wilson rest of season, right? So,
yeah, no, absolutely not. But it's like I was saying earlier too. Daniel Jones will definitely have the sustainability, the job security, I should say, as the starting quarterback. But he's only been throwing 1 touchdown pass per game, which if you're in a 6-point touchdown passing format, you're not going to like that as much, because I don't think Daniel Jones will be getting touchdowns on his feet every single week, because we have to remember that he got 2 on his own against the Miami Dolphins and then 1 on his own against the Denver Broncos. Tougher defenses on the ground in the front are not going to let him score so easily. So, yeah, as much as I love his athleticism and his scrambling capabilities, I don't want to depend on Daniel Jones rest of season, but I mean, compared to guys like Mac Jones and Russell Wilson, yeah, if Daniel Jones is the best you can get and you can't get Jake Browning, who we're going to talk about next, yeah, it's fine to go get Danny Dimes for like 15% of your FAAB.
Yep. Now let's move on let's go ahead and talk about Jake Browning here. Thrust into the starter's role for a second season in a row when the Apps are, second of the third season out of 3 seasons. With Burrow hurt, he played 9 games in 2023. Browning was serviceable in those games. I mean, I don't think you can really find a whole lot wrong with what he did in relief of Burrow. Is he your top quarterback on the waiver wire right now?
Absolutely. Jake Browning is not a name that's very famous in the fantasy circle, and I'm even seeing a bunch of people all over the fantasy space saying to start fading guys or expecting guys like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are going to take a hit in their fantasy production, but people don't listen to that nonsense. Jake Browning peppered Jamar Chase with targets after Joe Burrow had to exit. Out of 70% of the snaps, Jake Browning was 21 of 32 for 241 yards and 2 touchdown passes. Yes, he threw 3 interceptions, but that's not going to happen every single game. It's a bit of rust. He hasn't played a regular season game since 2023. Jake Browning is a perfectly serviceable quarterback option. California high school state record holder, by the way, Jake Browning. Let's put some respect on his name. He is going to easily find Jamar Chase wherever he is down that field, because Chase is that type of wide receiver who will make any quarterback better than he actually is, and that's what you want in a top guy like that. So Jake Browning is a guy that you're going to have to pay up to go get if you really need another quarterback. In a 1-quarterback format, I'm saying 20% of your FAAB, because I'm pretty sure there's going to be some people who are really going to pay up for him. Nate, you might think higher than me at this point, but I just don't want to overspend on Browning, because as our good colleague and buddy Lou pointed out in the comments, the earliest that Joe Burrow could return could be week 16. And if that's true, that puts Joe Burrow back against the Miami Dolphins in Miami and then against the Arizona Cardinals in Cincinnati, which is just in time for your fantasy playoffs. And that's where Joe Burrow could feast. So that's why I'm not willing to empty the bank for a Jake Browning, but having Jamar Chase and T. Higgins to throw to, give me Jake Browning over everybody we just mentioned.
No, yeah, he's definitely got the better weapons, and he's got a track record of being able to do something with them. He was 20th in points per game in that 9-game stretch he started for Burrow in 2023. That was tied with Tua Tagovailoa on the season. Overall, I want to say he finished as the overall QB 29 that season, playing only 9 games. That's not bad. And on the waiver wire, you're not going to find a lot of guys like this. So as much as the Burrow injury...
QB 26, and he's actually QB 29 right now after just one game.
Yes, QB 26, correct.
Yeah,
correct. Sorry, so splitting my ears here, but yes. Browning's a very serviceable option here on the waiver wire. I'm with you. I'm not going to pay up massively. I don't think you're going to get the production you get out of a Danny Dimes, possibly, which is why I'm willing to pay a little bit more. But for security, for sure. I think he's probably the best option available right now. Now, Evan, before we move on, let's get to some of these questions we've got here in the chat. We got to start with Jason, our guy Jason here. Thoughts on dropping Dalton Kincaid in Buffalo for either Jake Ferguson or Juwan Johnson in half PPR? What are your thoughts?
Dalton Kincaid, I think, will have some better outings versus Miami and then New Orleans and then the Patriots. So I think you need Juwan Johnson, but I don't think I'd be dropping Kincaid to get him unless Kincaid is absolutely your worst option on your roster, Jason. Yeah. Kincaid is starting to find some chemistry with Josh Allen. Ironically, he led the Bills in receptions on this past Sunday. So Josh Allen really does want to get Kincaid involved, and Kincaid is not exactly going to be a tight end that's going to win you many weeks, but I'm also not a big believer in the sustainability of a Juwan Johnson this season, because when the Saints start going up against some tougher defenses, unlike the San Francisco 49ers, I don't see the production being as strong. And granted, Spencer Rattler likes having that safety blanket in a Juwan Johnson. Jake Ferguson is a guy that I think you can pick up if you really don't have a better tight end option, but I just don't think I'm as comfortable dropping Kincaid for any of those guys unless you want to just resort to streaming tight ends. I'm sorry for the wishy-washy answer there, but I just don't think that dropping Kincaid is wise right now. What do you think, Nate?
I wouldn't do it. As much as I love Juwan Johnson, I'm not as big on Jake Ferguson because I don't love the Dallas offense. They barely squeaked by the Giants, and that's just borderline inexcusable to me. But Juwan Johnson is the one that I would consider. But again, this is the New Orleans offense. Spencer Rattler's at quarterback. We don't know how long Rattler's going to last behind center. We might see Tyler Shuck at some point. We don't know how that changes things. Kincaid's a season-long option. You don't have to stream tight ends. There's a chance if you trade for one of these guys, drop them for one of these guys, you might end up in a situation where you have no choice but to stream. The best way to protect yourself from that is just hold on to Dalton Kincaid. There are much worse tight ends out there.
Yeah, if you can pick up Ferguson or Johnson as a second tight end by dropping like a running back, like a Tank Bigsby, for example, now that he's just getting special teams work on the Eagles, yeah, absolutely go ahead and do that, because you can make an argument to flex Juwan Johnson and Jake Ferguson in your starting lineups if you don't have anybody better on your bench. They're worth rostering. It's just that I don't think you need to drop Kincaid right now, Jason.
Yeah, if you've got a Tank Bigsby, drop him. All right, Jason, we're going to move on to your next question here. He's got Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet, and Travis Etienne on his roster. Is it worth dropping Zach Charbonnet for Bashal Tutin, the upstart rookie, in half PPR?
Yeah, that's a tougher one, but I'm not rushing to add a Bashal Tutin yet, and I'm going to explain that once we get into the running backs. Tutin is at least a fine addition if you have somebody else that's worth dropping as well, because if you're going to roster the Seattle Seahawks running backs, you absolutely need, it's wise, and you absolutely need both running backs in Ken Walker and Zach Charbonnet on your team, being that these guys, depending on game script, is going to be whichever just happens to have the hot hand. They're both very good running backs. But Bashal Tutin is still a rookie. He's still getting acclimated to the NFL, and he still needs to prove that he can handle his own behind Travis Etienne. One game ain't gonna cut it, ladies and gentlemen. He needs to prove that he's capable of the NFL. I know it's tempting just because, one game, he looks really good against a Cincinnati Bengals craptacular defense, but he only took 8 carries for 42 yards. That's still change of pace volume off of 25% of the snaps. And I'm going to get more into this when we talk about Tutin, but I guess my point being, no, I'm not ready to drop Charbonnet for him. What do you think, Nate?
I wouldn't, not yet. I mean, there may be a point 3 or 4 weeks down the road where we see Tutin get consistent work. Maybe he takes over more of that workload. It becomes more of a split between him and Etienne. But for right now, as excited as I am about Bashal Tutin, I'm not dropping Zach Charbonnet for him. And that's saying something because I can't stand Zach Charbonnet. I mean, the efficiency is off the charts bad. 15 carries for 10 yards. Come on. But still, at least we know he's going to consistently get carries for now versus we don't know what Tutin's role ultimately is going to be. Right. We've got this one over here from Juju Pro 123455 over on Twitch. They just received an offer of Chuba Hubbard and DK Metcalf for George Pickens, Mike Evans, and DeAndre Swift. Should they accept this trade, Evan?
Chuba Hubbard and DK Metcalf for Pickens, Evans, and Swift. Yikes. I just don't see how this trade is going to make either side better in a nutshell because, Juju Pro, I really need to see the rest of your roster to make a firm answer for you, but I don't feel like from a surface level that this is a trade that either side really needs to make. I would need to understand more of the background on what are both sides trying to accomplish with this particular trade. Sure. Do they need help at running back? Does somebody need help at wide receiver? Because I don't get it.
I don't either. I mean, if I'm looking at this straight up, Chuba and Swift is a better running back slightly, maybe. DK, George Pickens is kind of a whatever. I'd put DK and Mike Evans on the same plane. You're probably getting a little bit extra of a bump getting George Pickens back with Mike Evans and Swift, but I don't think it's a deal you need to make. I'm with you.
I think I'm with that too, Juju Pro. I know that this is an offer that you just received. The only other thing I'll say about trades like this is that you're doing the right thing waiting for the right offer to come to you, and I don't think this is it. I think you can hold out for something better later in the season. It's only week 2. There's going to be people that'll make panic offers like this. I don't think you need to do this.
Yep, I'm right there with you. I don't think you need to do it at all. All right, Evan, and with that, let's go ahead and move on to the running back.
Oh, we lost Nate again. Come on back.
I'm back. The running backs, again, always thin. And as we get through the season, guys, it's only going to get thinner and thinner and thinner. If you know that you need some of these players right now is the time to spend up maybe even just a little bit. The first player I want to talk about, though, Evan, Bashal Tutin, we just talked about him. He did start to see some traction. Again, we talked about this. He had he had 8 carries for 42 yards. He had the 2 catches for 32 and the touchdown, which has really kind of made him fantasy relevant, got him to that 15 points in PPR. But long term, it's hard to know if he's actually going to have a role. And if you're looking at rostering a running back right now, and there are a lot of people hot on this guy, they're willing to spend up. Are you willing to spend up on him? And I think we know your answer here.
Yeah. So like I was just telling, sorry, who was I telling this to? I'm having a bit of a brain fart here. I think it was, who asked? Oh yeah, it was Jason William. Yeah. So, to get on the same point, I was just telling Jason about Bashal Tutin. Like I said, against the Cincinnati Bengals, a terrible defense in them. He had 25% of the snaps, which is the main complementary option to a Travis Etienne. 8 carries for 42 yards, and then he caught 2 passes. One of those was a touchdown. So take away that touchdown, and that puts him at 9.4 fantasy points, which is good low-end flex option value. Yeah. So, yeah, they're going to be slowly working in Tutin as the main complementary option, but there's a lot of word that, Travis Etienne's going to lose his job. It's going to be the Tutin show soon. We have zero evidence to show that is the case. Tutin does not offer all the same skills that Travis Etienne offers at this time. Tutin, if they're going to make him the guy in this backfield, it's not going to be until next season. I see no reason why they're going to be moving away from Etienne just because he's on the last year of his contract. And ETN still offers the best all-around option. He's still getting work in the passing game. He also caught a touchdown pass too, by the way. And ETN still is crazy efficient against two terrible defenses. We'll see if that holds up well against the Houston Texans and San Francisco 49ers over the next couple of weeks, who are also good at stuffing the front to stop the run. But as of right now, I'm not willing to spend more than 8 to 10% of your FAAB on a Bashal Tutin. I don't think you need to go crazy on this. I don't think Tutin is necessarily fool's gold, as I like to say, but I think he's being overvalued right now because he's a shiny new rookie, and a lot of people want that advantage, rookie bias. We got a lot of that in fantasy football, but I have to really pour some cold water on this one. What do you think, Nate?
I'm with you. I think a lot of people still remember the James Robinson blow up of 2020 and want that to happen again with some of these other players, these rookies, which is fine because sometimes it will happen, but you have to be realistic about it. And Tutin really isn't in a situation right now. Travis Etienne would have to suffer a pretty major injury, miss some time for Tutin to really gain a real stranglehold on that. Etienne still had 14 carries, so he was 6 ahead of Tutin, almost double his total. There will be a time when you might want to be thinking about grabbing him. This is not the time, in my opinion, unless you can get him for cheap. But if people are paying up on the wire for him, there's no way I'm touching it. I would say no more than probably 5% of your FAAB on Tutin right now, if he's available in your league and you really want to roster him as a wait and see. But other than that, I'm not going to get excited about him. Blake Corum, people are getting excited about Blake Corum too. I'm going to be the first one to throw some cold water on this one, folks. Yeah, he had 5 carries for 44 yards. Congratulations. He lucked into a touchdown. Not much has changed with the Los Angeles Rams. This is still a Sean McVay system. They still favor Kyren Williams. He's still going to get the majority of the snaps. That's just the way it is. Was it cool to see Corum get into the 30% snap share range? Sure. Great. It's not, and he might continue to get that, but 5 carries a game is probably his max. He had the 1 target for 14 yards. I don't think he sees more than 1 or 2 targets a game. I can't get excited about Blake Corum, and there's no way that I'm even going to put in a $0 FAAB bid on him right now. I don't have the roster room for a guy like that.
No, Blake Corum is not a guy that anybody needs to be rostering right now. He's not even a handcuff to Kyren Williams, because if something were to happen to Kyren Williams, Blake Corum would probably be the leader of the committee where they're going to but they're going to bring Jarquez Hunter up onto more volume, and then they're probably going to go get a guy from the practice squad, whoever's available, willing to take some change of pace carries. It's going to be a full-blown committee if anything were to happen to Kyren. Blake Corum is a guy who happened to fall into the end zone, and the fantasy football community was like, oh, he scored a touchdown. That means I have to add him. Doesn't matter. Add him. It doesn't matter if he's the backup. No, Blake Corum is not going to get more work as a result of this. This is not the Blake Corum breakout year. Do not bother spending any FAAB on him if you really need some backup running back. You don't even need to roster him as insurance to Kyren either. There's better options out there that we're about to get into. So
yeah, let's get in.
Yeah, let's get into it, because I already said 0% FAAB. Don't spend $1 of your FAAB on him.
Don't spend $1 on him. I want to talk about Tyler Algier, because I've been saying this over and over, and back to last season. No. Bijan's going to take over this backfield. Bijan already has taken over this backfield as much as he's going to take it over. He had 15 fantasy points last week. Tyler Algier did. Bijan Robinson had 20. They can coexist in the same backfield, right? 22 carries for Bijan. Tyler Algier had 16 carries for 76 and a touchdown. We live in a world where both of these running backs can be fantasy relevant. Bijan is an RB1. Tyler Algier is a solid flex pretty much every week because of how they're splitting work. He's my favorite running back on the wire this week, Evan.
I can't believe how many times the Falcons ran the football against the Minnesota Vikings. They came into Minneapolis this past weekend and said, we are going to run the football down your freaking throats and you are going to like it. And they did that. They beat the Vikings in their own home. My Chicago Bears suffered against the Minnesota Vikings, but then again, I mean, they beat themselves against the Vikings, but that's kind of another story. But anyway, Bijan Robinson is still the guy out of this backfield. There's no reason to believe that Tyler Algier is going to be stealing any work from Bijan. He's clearly a complimentary option to Bijan. There's a very good reason that the Falcons spent a first-round pick on Bijan, where Tyler Algier was just a 7th-round pick who happened to work out. I was losing my mind on the Start Sit show when I heard you and Lou, Nate, talking about how this is a 1-2 punch, how Bijan is not like a true bell cow, and I'm just sitting here like, but it's Bijan, what are you talking about? But like it's like you were just saying right here, the two can absolutely coexist together, and that's what they're doing. They didn't need to run Bijan on the ground. They already gave Bijan 22 carries, and now Tyler Algier got 16, and he fell into the end zone. Minnesota just had no answer for the Falcons' run game, and it was crazy good. And they're about to face the Carolina Panthers and the Washington Commanders. The Commanders have a pretty good front line, but I'm a bit shaky on them as well, where don't get me wrong, they're going to challenge the Falcons a lot more, but they're very beatable on the ground. So before the week 5 bye, the Falcons are going to really keep up this run game. Tyler Algier, I would absolutely rather have over Blake Corum and Bashal Tutin. If you really need another running back on the waiver wire, I'd say go between 8 to 10% of your FAAB. I don't think you need to break the bank for him either, because I don't think he's going to be repeating this every single week, depending on game script and how well the run game is working. But against Carolina, I could see both of them feasting, so I wouldn't go crazy on Algier either.
No, there's no reason to. Most people are seriously still looking at this backfield and going, well, it's all Bijan. It's not all Bijan. It's not going to be all Bijan. There's no reason they don't need it to be all Bijan. When Tyler Algier is this efficient and they can rely on him for this work, why not? These people forget these coaches aren't playing fantasy. Now, let's move on to the next one here. Ramondre Stevenson. He's been more relevant than a lot of people thought. Everyone left him for dead because of Trevion Henderson, but he really has not been left for dead by the New England Patriots at the very least. 11 carries, 54 yards, but he's getting work in the passing game. 5 targets, 5 catches last week. In week 1, 3 targets, 2 catches. He had 21 fantasy points last week. That's not a bad output.
Yeah, so Ramondre Stevenson was a guy that the fantasy football community wrote off because he had fumbling problems last year. Ramondre Stevenson had 7 fumbles and lost 3 of them. So when the Patriots drafted Trevion Henderson, everybody was thinking, oh, this is the end of Ramondre Stevenson. That means start fading him. But this was always going to be a split backfield, and Ramondre Stevenson is still taking 65% of the snaps in the 2 games that they have gone so far. Trevion Henderson is seeing complimentary work right now behind Ramondre Stevenson. Is that going to remain the same for the forever for the rest of the season? It remains to be seen. It depends if Trevion can keep up the good work that he showed in the preseason. And, he's not playing terrible, but he's also not playing great yet either. He's still getting accustomed to the NFL. I think Henderson will eventually get there, but it's a patience game. We need to wait for Trevion to get used to NFL-level talent and start developing in the Patriots system. Ramondre Stevenson is still the lead back until further notice, even if he's not better than something like flex consideration. The 5 passes for 88 yards was where Ramondre got the bulk of his PPR points. 22.2 if you definitely, count PPR for catches from running backs. But Ramondre Stevenson is definitely a guy I will want to spend a little more FAAB on. So the 12 to 15% range is where I'm comfortable most with Ramondre, being that I'm not so sure he's going to be keeping the lead role forever this season, but I think 12 to 15 is safe.
I think it's safe as well. And he's fairly widely rostered. He's rostered in roughly 60% of ESPN leagues, right around the same here on Sleeper. But he is still available in some leagues. And with as needy as we are at running back, some of us, me, it's worth it if he's still on the wire to go out and grab him. The one other one who is on our list, I didn't include him here just because he has reached that 80 to 90% rostership now that he's actually active and signed to the team. But Quinshon Judkins, guys, if he's available in your league, just go get him. 10 carries for 61 yards. He hadn't seen an NFL field before this because he really wasn't in camp, holding out for a contract. He's the real deal. He is now the RB1. You can forget about Dylan Sampson unless you think he's going to get some of the passing work.
Yeah, it's a split backfield right now, but it's definitely not going to stay that way. I knew this was going to be the case when Judkins got drafted in the second round. He looks really good. Before he got in trouble with the domestic violence allegations, I had him as my rookie RB2. That's how much faith I had in the guy. And he showed off of 27% of the snaps. He took 10 carries for 61 yards against the Baltimore Ravens defense that's really not easy to get past on the ground in the run game. So, yeah, if Quinshon Judkins happens to be available in your league, go get him, even if you got to empty like half your FAAB to do it.
Oh, 1,000%. It's absolutely worth it. All right, I want to get to a little bit of the chat here, Evan, before we move on to the next segment of the show. My first one, my buddy Frank is in the chat. What's up, Frank? Looking forward to seeing you on Trade Addicts next week. It's going to be a fun podcast. Make sure to check us out on Tuesday.
All right.
All about trading in Dynasty, and it's a whole blast. Let's get to this first question here. This is from Jacob4 over on Twitch. Half PPR team, Evan, 12 teams, 1 quarterback, 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 1 tight end, 2 flex that can be a tight end. He has Fields, Chase Brown, Tony Pollard, CeeDee Lamb, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Brock Bowers, Rome Odunze, Bill Krosky Merritt. I'm almost there. He's got the Packers kicker, which is Brandon McManus, Packers D. On his bench, J.J. McCarthy, Dylan Sampson, Caleb Johnson, Matthew Golden, Jawan Johnson. I think he just wants to know what we think of his team. I like it. Quarterback makes me nervous, obviously now with Justin Fields and J.J. McCarthy. I would probably make a move somewhere in your league to try and get a quarterback. Let's see here. He's got, there's more to this here. Dropping Fields for Drake May. Dropping Caleb Johnson for Wan'Dale Robinson. Dropping McCarthy for Daniel Jones. That's a good call.
Okay.
And thinking of dropping Sampson for Tootin. This is the one I'm hung up on here. All the other ones I'm okay with.
Yeah, I think I for right now, I'd still rather have Sampson than Tootin because the Cleveland Browns offense is a mess. They're having to it's kind of amazing that they're able to find whoever's open in this terrible Cleveland offense and just throw the ball to him, whoever that may be. And Dylan Sampson is definitely that guy where Sampson is still catching a lot of good passes out of the backfield. And I mean, he even caught a touchdown pass off of 3 passes thrown his way. He caught all three of them. He's perfect so far in every target thrown his way. I think I'd still rather keep Sampson over Bashal Tootin. I'm with you on that one, Nate. But Jacob 4, as far as the rest of your team goes, you know, you got some work to do, but as long as you spend your FAAB wisely, I think you'll be fine.
Yeah, and it seems the moves you're making at quarterback and some of the other positions, I think will play well for your team. We got this one from Tommy on YouTube. Should I drop Colston Loveland for Daniel Jones? I have no backup quarterback. I have Dak and CD stack in a 10-man PPR league. Colston Loveland hasn't done much. I mean, at this point, do you think if you're quarterback needy, I mean, Dak's fine.
Yeah, Tommy, you don't need to go roster a backup quarterback if this is a 1-quarterback league. You don't need to do that. Colston Loveland is not a must-hold, but I would much rather go go pick up another running back or wide receiver on your waiver wire. Whoever the best option is in that league, just go get him. Just drop Colston Loveland for him because this is still Cole Kmet until further notice. Loveland is a rookie tight end who's going to need some time to develop in the NFL, and the Bears offense is not too surprisingly struggling right now because they're trying to find a brand new identity with a brand new system and a brand new coaching staff, and everybody expects immediate results that are just not going to be there. We in the fantasy football community are especially impatient just because we love seeing results right away because, hey man, we're trying to win in our leagues here and we want to see some production. But Colston Loveland, this is not the year to treat him as a tight end 1 in redraft leagues. He's a great dynasty stash, but aside from that, just go get the best running back or wide receiver on your waiver wire. Go ahead and drop Loveland for one of those.
Yep, and we're going to get to running backs, or we're going to get to wide receivers here in a minute. We've got Jay Hang 20, however. He wants to know, would we trade Brian Thomas Jr. or Drake London for a combination of Rashee Rice and Rome Odunze? He currently has on his roster Emeka Egbuka and Travis Hunter.
I would not give up BTJ or London. Those guys are elite. And don't get me wrong, I love me some Rashee Rice and Rome Odunze, but as I was just talking about with how this Bears offense is still trying to find themselves, Rome Odunze is probably the best piece in this offense right now because when he was drafted with Caleb Williams, they came in together planning on being the shake and bake, if we want to make another Talladega Nights reference. They had always planned on being a great combination all throughout their time on the Bears, but no, you don't need to trade BTJ or London for one of those guys. I don't know why. I guess if you're trying to upgrade at wide receiver, you can't really do much better than BTJ or London. So Brian Thomas Jr. is great. I mean, you've already got Travis Hunter as well. I wouldn't say Travis Hunter is a must hold at wide receiver either, as well as he's doing.
I wouldn't either.
Travis Hunter so far is seeing some decent volume, but if you got somebody else in your league who believes in Travis Hunter and for whatever reason, if defensive points count, which I doubt they do, but I'd say if you can move Travis Hunter too to somebody who might believe in a rookie that might just break out later in the season, where you've already got Brian Thomas Jr. It'll be fine.
Yeah, I would leave it as is. I don't think there's any reason to move what you have right now. We got another one from Tommy here. Should I pick up Cam Scatabo and drop Dylan Sampson? I'm going to say yes. I think there's more opportunity for Scatabo moving forward.
I'm going to say a reluctant yes, because I think Sampson has more value because he catches more passes. Now, that being said, Scatabo is no scrub either. I mean, they spent a 4th-round pick on the guy. They got good value on him. But Scatabo is just not as involved in the passing game as Sampson is. So if you have to go with a rookie running back that's going to see more volume in PPR, I think I'd still rather have Sampson for right now. I don't really want anybody from the New York Giants backfield. I think it's a mess, and I think it's not going to get better.
Oh, it is absolutely a mess. We've got this one from Frank in the chat. He says, sorry he joined late, and if we covered this already, he also is apologizing. What are you guys doing with the Seahawks running backs after the Walker explosion yesterday? We didn't fully get into this, Frank, but for me, I don't know that means anything at all.
I don't think that means a whole lot either, Frank. I think this is just, like I was just saying earlier, it's just going to be whoever has the hot hand. I think that if you happen to have both on your team, good for you, because that means you can start both of them potentially. But yeah, I don't think there's anything else that we need to read into this situation that already hasn't been read into it. It's a two-back committee. Well, yep. not committee, but like timeshare in a way.
Yeah, it is. It's basically a timeshare. It's a 1A and 1B, and that's the way it's going to be this season. It's going to be nearly impossible to predict who's going to break out. You just got to cross your fingers and say a little prayer to the football gods. We have one last one here. This is from Bryce Overton. What's a fair value for London in Dynasty, specifically running backs? This is a 2QB Dynasty league.
Okay, I see where it says that. Okay. Yes, I was confused at first. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. So what would you be willing to give up running back wise to acquire Drake London right now?
Well, so my rule of thumb in Dynasty is don't ever give up a young wide receiver for a running back. And the reason I say that is because wide receivers in the NFL in fantasy football for Dynasty, typically a Drake London is going to give you 8 or 9 good seasons as a top wide receiver option. So your typical running back is probably going to have 4 solid seasons before they start to fall off in production. So that's why I always avoid trading a younger wide receiver to go get a running back. I mean, if you're desperate to win now, that might change things a bit, but I still wouldn't do it. I would try to find another wide receiver worth trading away, somebody a bit older that could balance things out with a running back that you badly need. So, like somebody like on the level of like a Mike Evans or DeAndre Hopkins, for that matter, too, if you want to try and match talent for a running back. DeAndre Hopkins is not elite anymore, but if you need somebody to take a chance on, like a Dylan Sampson, and you somehow land him for DeAndre Hopkins, good for you. I'm not saying that's realistic, but I'm just trying to temper your expectations here, in which don't give up London for a running back, because London's probably going to last longer in the NFL than a lot of elite running backs.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're at a point where you have to, you're going to have to get an elite level guy. Jonathan Taylor's value has been dinged a little bit just because of what that offense is. And despite the last couple of weeks of solid play, I think people aren't valuing him as high. You could probably get Jonathan Taylor plus for Drake London, like maybe a 2nd round pick. That's what I'd be looking to do. If this is a trade you have to make and you have to get a running back, and Drake London is your worst wide receiver because you've got like Emeka Egbuka, Tet McMillan, Justin Jefferson, and Jamar Chase on that roster, then I'm okay with making that deal. Kind of like what Evan said, though, it's hard to move a young wide receiver for a running back just because of the value difference. Get ready to add me back, because we're going to switch over to wide receivers now that we have run through all of these questions. There we go. All right. Now that we're on to wide receivers here, Troy Franklin of the Denver Broncos. Despite that loss yesterday, that was the one bright spot I really think for this Denver team. For those of you who don't remember, Troy Franklin was a teammate of Bo Nix at Oregon. They came into the league the same year. They are together, and it actually popped for the first time. Not only did it pop in this game, but right now, Troy Franklin is the leading receiver in all major stat categories for the Broncos. Evan, what do you make of this? Is this for real with him? Is he overtaking Cortland Sutton?
I don't think he's necessarily overtaking Cortland Sutton, but I would say that this is as real gets. Troy Franklin just happened to need a season to get used to the NFL level, and they're starting to click together on this level. Troy Franklin outperformed Cortland Sutton temporarily, but he's also ahead of Marvin Mims and Evan Ingram right now in the target pecking order. I was a Marvin Mims truther in Dynasty this past offseason, and it appears that I'm going to have to eat my words on that one because Troy Franklin is finally stepping up to be a solid number 2 wide receiver in this offense until I don't know if the Broncos are ever going to move on from Cortland Sutton, but the pair is here to stay. Troy Franklin is a guy that happened to catch a really good touchdown, 8 of 9 catches for 89 yards, and he fell into the end zone. I don't think he's necessarily getting 25 fantasy points every single week, especially against a tougher Chargers secondary, but this is definitely a guy that you want to consider dropping 15 to 18% of your FAAB to go get, because I think he's still going to be seeing flex consideration at minimum from this point forward in the season.
I'm with you on that. He's not a wide receiver 1. He's not a wide receiver 2, but he's a back-end wide receiver 3/flex option for me. 10 to 15% of your FAAB ought to do it. But I do think that this is going to be, he's a permanent fixture in this offense. Like you were saying, he's ahead of Marvin Mims, who's had ball security issues his entire career, all one season and like 3 games worth of it. But there have been ball security issues. And if Franklin doesn't have those, he's obviously going to get more snaps. That's just the way, well, all sports work. You make less mistakes. And I think that's where we're at with Troy Franklin. This is opportunity. Pat Bryant's still a rookie. He's a guy who's still trying to kind of figure things out. As much as we know Sean Payton loves him, it's going to be Troy Franklin right now. And because of that college rapport, I mean, you can see it on the field. They almost know what each other are thinking. This is good for Denver. It's going to be good for your fantasy teams. But again, 10 to 15% of your FAAB should do it. Now, let's go to an actual rookie, Evan. Elic Aomanor over in Tennessee seems to be the favorite target of rookie quarterback Cam Ward. What are you making of this? Because this isn't an especially good offense, but Aomanor seems to actually have some relevance for fantasy right now.
Yeah, Alec Ayomanor is doing really well as a rookie out of Stanford, building some chemistry with Cam Ward. He's seen 13 targets so far, but he's only caught 6 of them. Yeah, that's to be expected. This is a really bad Tennessee Titans team this season. He happened to fall into the end zone against the LA Rams. 4 of 6 catches for 56 yards, and good for him for scoring his first NFL touchdown. He's definitely the number 2 wide receiver, solidified behind Calvin Ridley. Cam Ward is going to get better as things go as time progresses in the NFL. I don't like this, the Brian Callahan system here in Tennessee. I don't think it's going to last forever, but talent is still prevailing in the end. So yeah, this is another wide receiver that you will need to spend. I'd be willing to go between 15 to 18% for Ayomanor as well, because even though there's going to be some tougher weeks for the Titans offense, this is still good flex value if you very badly need it at wide receiver. And I think it's only going to get better as the season goes on, because that's looking like what they're trying to build in Tennessee right now, in a rebuilding young offense where who the heck else are they going to throw the ball to? Tyler Boyd is gone. I mean, and Tyler Lockett is not who he used to be. So why not do it?
Might as well. I mean, this is a team. Callahan has to know, like, they're not going to win a lot of games. They're rolling out a lot of younger players paired with a lot of aging vets that are on their way out. Aomanor is a solid pickup for me. I think he continues to see volume. Obviously, Cam Ward trusts him, and that's what's most important for these rookie quarterbacks to develop. Now, here's one. I can't believe we're talking about a Green Bay wide receiver outside of Matthew Golden, but we are. Romeo Doubs has started to pop a little bit. Over the last 2 weeks, he has 9 targets, 5 catches for just under 100 yards. He has 1 touchdown. Do you think that Romeo Doubs is someone that you can reliably flex? Obviously, he's not a wide receiver 1. He's not a wide receiver 2. This is a guy we're talking about picking up, and in an emergency, you're going to flex him. Is Doubs at least worth that on the waiver wire right now?
No, he's not.
No, he's not.
He's absolutely not. He does see a lot of snaps, but he's also not getting the targets because he's just not a good enough wide receiver for that purpose. I think he's a better blocking wide receiver than he is a catching wide receiver, and that's why he gets so many snaps, because when they love to run the football with Josh Jacobs, that's what he's good for. I would much rather pick up Dontavian Wicks, as gross as that sounds, if I have to pick up a Packers wide receiver, being that he's going to get more targets than Romeo Doubs will this season. Wicks will be better for low-end flex value, whereas Doubs is not a guy that I care about falling into the end zone. In this case, it's like, whoop-de-doo, fellas. He's probably going to be lucky to see the end zone again later this season. So, hard pass but if you hate me and you really want to pick up Doubs for your team anyway, don't spend $1 of FAAB. Just go 0 and see if you can get him.
You should be able to get him for 0. I can't imagine people are clamoring for him. I mean, we haven't seen the wide breadth of injuries at the wide receiver position yet, at least. So people aren't getting too desperate yet. Now, the last one here that we're going to talk about, Wan'Dale Robinson, Evan. He just continues to see volume. He's so far 18 targets over the first 2 weeks. He's turned that into 14 catches, nearly 200 yards and a touchdown. Right now, he's the overall wide receiver 8 on the season. What do you think? This smells like last year, where Puka Nacua, Wan'Dale Robinson get hyper-targeted. There's no one else really in the offense they feel like throwing the ball to. It seems like that's continued. So at this point, I really do feel like Wan'Dale Robinson's a guy that you should be rostering if he's available in your league. I'm willing to pay 15 to 20% of my FAAB to get him because the volume's just going to be there all season long. Am I off base here with Wan'Dale?
I don't think you're off base, but I just don't see 8 to 10 targets per game being sustainable. I just don't think this is going to last forever because they played against 2 secondaries that are not good. Kansas City secondary is also not that good either, but I think the Chiefs are going to put a beat down on the Giants coming up soon because the Chiefs are 0-2 and they're pissed off about it. They're going to want to take it out on a terrible team like the New York Football Giants. Russell Wilson will definitely want to feed Wan'Dale Robinson, but I just don't think it's going to be wide receiver 1 production that Wan'Dale has been getting over the last couple of weeks. So Wan'Dale is a guy that if you really need a wide receiver, I'd be willing to go as high as 20 to 23% of your FAAB, but I don't think that he's going to be doing more than riding your bench if you happen to have 3 or 4 wide receivers who are better names than him. But he's definitely a guy that you absolutely have to roster at this point, and you're going to have to pay up to get him because of the production he's been putting up. But that being said, I think he's perfectly fine to roster for the rest of the season. Yeah, go ahead and drop some FAAB on him if you need a wide receiver. Russell Wilson is still going to be the quarterback until further notice, and he likes feeding him. So, like I said, don't expect wide receiver 1 production that he's been getting, but go ahead and spend some FAAB on him.
Yeah, I just think he's going to continue to see volume. If y'all haven't checked it out, I want to point this out here. Lou Brunson saying, please tell me y'all read Carly's Unpacking Week 2. If you're not familiar, it is a data dump of all of the major stats that you need to know. Here's one of them. Career 8 out of 4. Yesterday was 16.1. That's unusual. However, the volume is not. We're going to continue to see that volume for Wan'Dale Robinson in this offense. There's just almost no way around it.
They played a Dallas Cowboys secondary that sucks. It's like, of course he's going to have above average ADOT. You know, what else do you expect out of this? And that's going to come back down when they play the Chiefs and the Chargers, who have way better secondaries than the Cowboys. But sorry, Nate, let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on. Because, of course, I didn't properly set the stages before we came on air. Noted. It usually does it for me. I've never had this problem before. But hey, you know, you live and you learn. But let's get into these tight ends. First of all, let's talk about Zach Ertz. This is an interesting one because, yes, he is definitely rosterable right now. I am advocating for Zach Ertz. I think he's someone that should be rostered in most leagues. Then we get the news that Jaden Daniels could be missing at least week 3, could miss more time. Now we're staring down the barrel of Marcus Mariota in Washington. Do you still feel the same about Zach Ertz with Marcus Mariota?
Yes, I do. I absolutely do not want to change what I think about Zach Ertz just because Marcus Mariota is throwing the football. Mariota plays, well, I don't want to say similar to Jaden Daniels because they're absolutely not as talented, but Mariota recognizes that Zach Ertz is a reliable set of hands that he can find in the red zone and get some good safety blanket short yardage options where, yeah, Zach Ertz is not going to get you more than 8 to 10 yards per catch, but that's good enough for a first down, depending on the situation. So Mariota will definitely enjoy feeding him for the short yardage gains and red zone looks, let's be honest. So Zach Ertz is a guy that I am recommending as the second best tight end to pick up on waivers this week if he's not already rostered. He is 53% rostered in sleeper redraft leagues. I don't want to go above 15% FAAB tops for Zach Ertz, which might be a little generous just because Ertz definitely has some tight end 2 value that could have some tight end 1 upside, but you're probably not going to be starting him as your tight end 1 depending on who you have on your team. But Zach Ertz is also a must roster even if you already have somebody at tight end because you can make a case to flex him too.
Yep. Oh, 100%. And he's a good streaming option too, in my opinion.
Yep. Absolutely.
You don't need, you might not want to hold him long term. He's rostered in 50% on the dot of ESPN leagues. He's a nice pickup. Zach Ertz, he's 34. We keep trying to end his career for him, and he keeps continuing his career, and it helps in fantasy, especially at this point in the season when you're looking for a tight end. Now, we already talked a little bit about our next one, Juwan Johnson. We'll just quickly revisit this one. I think he's going to continue to see volume. This is a terrible offense. I'm willing to pay like 20% of my FAAB to get him because he's a long-term option and I might not have to continue streaming. But I'm not. I'm nervous. I'm nervous because of the quarterback situation. It's the only thing that makes me nervous. If we were talking about Derek Carr still being the quarterback there and we were seeing this kind of volume, I would not be worried about it whatsoever.
Yeah, and to be honest, I'm not that worried about Juwan Johnson's situation because no matter who's throwing him the football, the volume that he's getting is not to be ignored. And a tight end with a good or at least a decent set of hands is what you want to see out of most rookie quarterbacks because they need a safety blanket in order to feel like they can get some passes completed and not lose their cool mentally that they're not able to complete some passes where that's where Spencer Rattler sits as a sophomore quarterback. His rookie season was last year, and having a reliable option like a Juwan Johnson just because they don't really have a lot of options to throw the football to. You can only give the ball to Alvin Kamara so many times, and Olave is probably going to get double-teamed a lot. And Rashid Shaheed is really only good for deep throws anyway, so for shorter yardage stuff, who are you going to throw to? Juwan Johnson. He's a set of hands that's going to be Mr. Reliable for the rest of this season. I don't think this is necessarily going to be the most reliable volume, but you can definitely count on Juwan Johnson as a solid tight end, too, for the rest of the season. He is their guy. It's not going to be Foster Moreau. It's not going to be Jack Stoll. Taysom Hill is still listed as a quarterback. I don't even think he's going to line him a tight end anymore. But that being said, I'm not going to go higher than 25% of your FAAB for Juwan Johnson because he's another guy like Zach Ertz that you can make a case to flex along with your starting tight end. And I like him better than Zach Ertz.
I do too. I think the volume's going to be consistent. Again, like I said, I'm concerned about Spencer Rattler. He plays like a rookie. That's why I called him a rookie. I know he's not a rookie. That's the only concern I have. The volume's going to be there. I really like Juwan Johnson. And let's move on to Harold Fannin because I feel the same way about Harold Fannin now. We're 2 weeks into the season. I know it's only 2 weeks, but he's already seen 14 targets. He's got 12 catches. This seems to be a consistent thing. Like he can live alongside David Njoku. They're running a lot of 12 personnel. How are you feeling about Fannin? Is it time to go out and get him off of the waiver wire right now?
I'm not rushing to get Harold Fannin as far as asking the question, is it time to get him? Well, it depends. Like, do you really need another reliable, potentially reliable pass catcher in this terrible Browns offense? Because he's still going to be splitting work with David Njoku. And I mean, yeah, they're going to be doing, a lot of Browns fans will say they're doing 2 tight end sets, but that doesn't necessarily mean that both guys are going to be great for fantasy value. And you can see that in the first couple of weeks where Njoku hasn't even seen 10 fantasy points yet. And Harold Fannin Jr. was lucky to get 63 yards off of 7 catches against the Bengals, but the Ravens gave him a harder time. He was 5 for 5 for 48, which is good for flex value. You know, it's better if you don't need to take a 0. And the Browns just don't really have many people to throw the ball to, where Judy and Tillman are not exactly stellar options, but Flacco can make it work just because, well, he's got to throw the ball to somebody because he doesn't have wheels. So Harold Fannin Jr. is a guy that I'm not relying on for consistent PPR volume because this Browns offense sucks, and they are going to go up against even better defenses between the Packers, the Lions, the Vikings. The Steelers have some Swiss cheese holes in their defense, but even then, like against the Browns, I'm picking the Steelers all day, every day. So this is going to be a tough schedule for the Browns over the next 4 weeks, and I don't want to spend more than 5% of my FAAB on Harold Fannin Jr.
I don't disagree with you. I want to like him more. I think he does provide some back-end flex value. That value might grow as the season goes on, but I'm not willing to spend up more than maybe 3 to 5% of my FAAB to find out. Now let's move on to our last tight end here, and we'll get everyone out of here, Evan. Jake Ferguson over in Dallas. Right now, he is rostered in 65% of sleeper leagues, right about the same in ESPN. That said, he's kind of turning into a somewhat major part of this passing attack in Dallas. Dak Prescott seems to like targeting him, and we know how low the bar is at tight end right now. 16 points last week. He saw 12 targets, and that was with everyone healthy in a shootout against the New York Giants, which feels weird to say. Does this continue with Ferguson? He feels to me like he's a top 8 tight end rest of season. I just kind of feel like that's where he's going to slot in. I think he's going to see enough volume. Are you feeling the same?
He definitely has that potential because he's been there before. He was tight end 9 in 2023, and he's currently sitting at tight end 6 in PPR leagues. But I don't believe Ferguson will hold top 10 status. I think he's a top 15 tight end. But the Cowboys are going to be going up against some tougher defenses coming up. Listen, the Dallas Cowboys needed overtime to beat the Giants this past weekend, and that's pathetic, considering the amount of talent that the Cowboys have. But Jake Ferguson at least showed that 9 for 12 for 78 yards is what you can expect out of him in matchups where he can eat. I'm a little nervous about what he might do against my Bears, but I think he's at least safe for 6 targets against my Bears. I am not willing to treat him as a tight end 1 rest of season. I think he's a high-end tight end 2 with some tight end 1 upside. He's right there with Zach Ertz. I don't want to spend more than about 10% of my FAAB on Jake Ferguson.
There isn't a tight end I'd advocate spending more than 10 on. 10's about as high as I'm willing to go. I think that's fair with Ferguson. I'm a little bit higher on him. I think Dak likes him a little bit more. I might even like him a little bit more than George Pickens, which I really liked George Pickens sliding into this offense. Thought it would be good for CeeDee Lamb, and I think it has been good for CeeDee Lamb. I like Ferguson rest of season a little bit more than you. We can agree to disagree on this one, but I think we're still kind of in the same ballpark. I mean, I feel like tight end 7 to 8 is his ceiling. I don't think he can go any higher than that. I think he can play to his ceiling this season. You think he's a back end tight end 1. That's well within the realm of possibilities, in my opinion. So
yeah,
I don't think we're that far off on it here. Now, Evan, it's been, and I added myself back in that time. Guys, if you need more waiver wire advice, please head over to optimusfantasy.com. We have our waiver wire article live. Make sure you check out Carly's Unpacking the NFL for week 2, breaking down all the crazy crap that we saw and all the crazy stats. Before we get out of here 100%, Evan, we got one more question. We've got Kobe over on YouTube wants to know, would you trade RJ Harvey for Cam Scadabo straight up? Just running back for running back.
No, I would not. Okay, good night, everybody.
I wouldn't either. There's so much more upside for Harvey in that offense. I don't think it's even close. I'm definitely I'm holding on to RJ Harvey.
Yeah.
Yep. Before we get out of here, guys, I want to remind everyone, head on over to our Discord channel. You see the link there here on the graphic. It is also down in the show description. We've got more waiver wire advice, dynasty discussions, best NFL bets, DFS advice twice. It's so nice. And then also, folks, head over to tools.optimusfantasy.com. Get $10 off your first 3 months with the promo code 3. More data, more tools, more wins, and a really super awesome league sync system. It's going to help you grade your teams for all those degenerates like us who are in like 15 to 20 leagues. It's right there, whichever way it is, right there. Make sure you guys head over there and check it out. Good luck on the waiver wire this week, everyone. We hope that you found our advice helpful. We will be back here next week, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Monday. Until then, you can catch me on Wednesday with Casey Kasem live at 1 o'clock Eastern. Had to think about what time we were going exactly. 1 o'clock Eastern. Tons more content coming out this week. Make sure you check it out. Like, subscribe, follow along. For Evan Sather, I am Nate Polvogt, folks. Good luck and good night.